Good evening, how are you? This is HimanshuBhayani narrating you in the form of digital video news bulletin of datelinegujaratnews.com, mainly the pointers from the newsletter. So, what is buzzing in the world? What's the news buzzing in the world and what's buzzing in the world of news? So, let's start with some good news. Today was Today the results were to be declared of 12th standard of the Gujarat Higher Secondary Education Board for mainstream. The commerce stream and the arts stream, the common stream, what you call it. That's arts and commerce. And the result, the students who attended, out of that almost 73.27%. That's the number of students who have passed the commerce exams or the arts exams. So that's a good news. So let's start on the note of a good news. Otherwise, in the world everywhere there is blast, war, drone attacks. From the drone attacks, yesterday the drone attacks were reported in Moscow. Today, what has happened? Drone attacks have been reported across the refineries, oil refineries, mainly in the Krasnodar region of Russia. And there is a channel called Baza. The Baza has reported a drone crashed on a territory of a facility, sparking an explosion. Even couple of Russian telegram channels have reported that the region's Ilskir oil refinery came under the attack. So there were some multiple attacks. And a channel shot a drone crashed on the site but did not detonate. And they have reported some people, 4 of them have been injured in this accident. Russia blames US for encouraging Ukrainian drone strikes. They say that US is encouraging, Russia has blamed US, and they say that the US is encouraging the drone attacks, to conduct the drone attacks on Russia, and they are encouraging Ukraine to do that. Amidst this, the Wagner boss is back in picture, Yevgeny Prigozhin, and what he has said. He said that he has basically questioned that he has said that why they were allowing these drones to fly in Moscow, when Moscow at several places has this placards displaying a no drone fly zone. So in that scenario, why they have allowed this? And he took the telegram channel following the assault, where he offered a sharp rebuke of the senior military officials living in Rubilyovka. So that's where he has said that this is not done. A cook turned private military contractor, and now he is questioning the Russian authorities and the Russian officials. Any which way is going ahead. What's happening again in Russia, and something aligned to Russia, is that Putin is likely to attend the BRICS summit, which is going to be held in Cape Town, and on Thursday, that's tomorrow. And there was a kind of voice from the leader of opposition in the South African parliament who said that Putin should be arrested because there is a warrant issued by International Criminal Court. But now Africa has suggested, without saying explicitly, that it won't arrest Putin if he decides to travel for the main BRICS summit in Johannesburg. So that's what they have said. So somewhere this issue seems to be cooling off, and it may not get kind of steam the way it was gaining it politically across the political circuits in the world. So what's buzzing in the Eurasian Peninsula is basically the European Asian Peninsula is buzzing with tensions, mainly with this Russia-Ukraine war, tension in Middle East, Israel, Palestine, Syria, Iran, a lot of things. So amidst all this, what is happening in China? Interestingly, in China, what has happened is that Washington has released a video footage which displays that Chinese F-16 fighter jet was buzzing behind the US plane. And Washington, while they released this video, they said that Chinese pilot was trying to be unnecessarily aggressive, intercept the maneuver after the incident over the South China Sea between Chinese fighter jet and US reconnaissance aircraft. So responding to this, the Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Mao Ning, she was questioned by Reuters that this is what Washington has to say, and what is your response? And what she said, I'm reading that word to word, she said that the US said that a fighter jet carried out unnecessarily aggressive maneuver near a US military plane last week over the South China Sea in international airspace. That was a question asked by the Reuters correspondent, and Mao Ning said in response, for quite some time, the US side has frequently sent aircrafts and vessels to conduct close-in reconnaissance on China, seriously threatening China's sovereignty and security. Such provocative and dangerous moves are the root cause of maritime security issues. That's what she has said. The US needs to immediately stop such dangerous acts of provocation. We will continue to take necessary measures to firmly safeguard our sovereignty and security. That is the statement. And she has said that, the headlines are like China warns US against attempts to threaten its sovereignty. And that's what she has said. Another development from Asia, North Korean spy satellite, it failed to launch basically. It fell into the sea, and Pyongyang has vowed to conduct a second launch. North Korea's attempt to put country's first spy satellite into space failed on Wednesday in setback to the leader Kim Un's push to boost his military capabilities as the tension with United States and South Korea rises. After an unusually quick admission in the failure, North Korea vowed to conduct a second launch after learning what went wrong with its rocket liftoff. So there was something failure on the rocket liftoff part. So South Korea and Japan briefly urged residents to take shelter after the launch. That's what they have said. In the news from the mainstream news headlines, mainly in the MENA region, that is the Middle East and North Africa region, Israeli airstrike. Israel Palestine to hona hi hai bhai, if it's the Middle East and North Africa. So Israeli airstrike killed several Palestinians near Lebanon and Syria border. 5 members of Popular Front for Liberation of Palestine group were killed in this blast. And of course, the blame game has started. Not the blame game, but this was a short attack by the Israeli forces. So no doubt about that. Now the Palestinians are talking on that line. In developments across the African subcontinent, the main headlines from Africa, if you see, is that Sudan Army has suspended the truce talks with RSF, that is the Rapid Support Force headed by Hemedati. They said that the Sudanese army has suspended its participation in US and Saudi brokered ceasefire talks with its paramilitary force. That's what the government official said on Wednesday. And the army took the decision because they said that the rebels never implemented a single one of the provisions of the short-term ceasefire, which required their withdrawal from hospitals, residential buildings, etc. And they have repeatedly violated the truce. That's what the Sudanese officials said, and that's the reason. They have kind of suspended the truce talks. There's no point in talking to them. That's what they have said. One of the major news which comes from UAE is that UAE withdraws from the US-led maritime coalition. Now, this maritime coalition mainly was to safeguard the cargo, the oil cargo, which passes from the Strait of Hormuz. Almost 90% of the Saudi oil cargo passes from the strait, and there is a threat from Iran. And that's the reason this coalition was there, where the maritime joint patrolling activities happened with US. A lot of spending on weapons and weaponry also was there. So Saudi was one of the UAE was one of the biggest clients of US weaponry. What is the reason they have said is a disappointment with the American effort to deter Iran. Now, this is reported by the Wall Street Journal. I'm sure you should click this link on the newsletter. You should try to read this report because there's a fantastic video which says how the patrolling was done. The maritime patrolling was done using the drone boats. Can you imagine? You have seen drone aircrafts. Now there are drone boats, drone submarines. So the application of drones into the maritime security and maritime patrolling, unimaginable. That's what is happening. You should definitely click this link and try to see that video at least. It's a 8 to 9 minutes video. It's worth watching. On the European landscape, what's happening? The British officials, they are the legitimate Russian targets now because the way, the former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev said on Wednesday, responding to the remarks from the UK's Foreign Secretary, that the Ukraine has a right to strike military targets inside Russian territory. The UK de facto is leading undeclared war against Russia. That's what the Russians said. And by providing Ukraine a military aid, Medvedev, who is the deputy chairman of Russia's Security Council, he tweeted calling the nation Moscow's eternal enemy. So now UK is kind of Moscow's eternal enemy. So what's happening in the world? Again, the Eurasian continent, that's the boiling hot spot. So what's happening in Europe in other developments? French President Emmanuel Macron, he urges basically for the tangible NATO security guarantees to Kyiv. He said that he was there basically in Bratislava, and that's what he said is that stressing that Ukraine is today protecting Europe. So this tangible NATO security guarantee should be given to Kyiv. That's That's what he said. That is why I'm in favor, he said. This will be a subject of collective talks in following weeks to offer tangible and credible security guarantees to Ukraine. That's a statement coming from Macron. Not much of news buzz from US, Canada, but Mexico, clash with Mexico police leads to 10 people dead. Mainly they are civilians, mainly they are the drug cartel members. And the Nuevo Leon Public Security Secretary Twitter account has tweeted saying a considerable amount of weapons was found, including grenades as well as ammunition, and tactical equipment was seized. So they were kind of ready to fight this corps, the cartel members, like fighting like army members. What's happening in South Pacific? The South Pacific media is largely dominated with the news of UK's first post-Brexit trade deals with Australia and New Zealand. Now that it is in place, what the UK trade deal with Australia and New Zealand means for exports, travel and visa, that's being kind of dissected and bisected after the Brexit. This is the first deal. And the signed copies of the Benio comics are among the first items that will be shipped from UK as a part of first negotiated post-Brexit trade deal struck by the government. So that's a kind of a marking which has happened, and comic books for the kids. While in New Zealand, a 6.2 Richter scale magnitude earthquake shakes the south coast. While the earthquake was being reported, Air New Zealand, the national carrier, what was it doing? What was Air New Zealand doing? Air New Zealand was busy, kind of asking passengers to step on the weighing scale before they board into international flight. So they have been asked by the regulators to conduct a survey of 10,000 passengers to kind of consider the payload for aircraft and balance the weight, basically. So that's the news from the New Zealand. And worrisome news from the world of technology. The OpenAI CEO Sam Altman has said that artificial intelligence may lead to humanity to extinction. He was basically talking to the industry leaders, executives and experts and professors. And he discussed while he said that the risk of extinction from AI, which they urge policymakers to equate at par with the risk posed by pandemics and nuclear war. May God save everybody. But this is the news we have to report, so we are reporting. But yes, AI is here and AI is going to be lethal. That's what the news says. As I said, not much of news from India and Gujarat. Of course, some news is there where government has kind of signed one major directive which is going to put India as one of the major grain storages in the world. But apart from that, the news of wrestlers, it's a sad side. Wrestlers are protesting, but the politics is being played now on that. People are asking that. The news which is floating is that why the wrestlers were not stopped, why they went to gauges to immerse their medals. It's a sad moment, please. But a lot of politics is there on this. Meenakshi Lekhi did not answer the question. A lady reporter just chased her running behind her, and she also ran. And the lady reporter was asking that being a lady, being a female member of parliament, how do you justify this, or how do you what you have to say on this when the women are asking for the justice for the kind of sexual harassment which has been done by the Wrestling Federation of India's chief, Brit Bhushan. So she did not answer and she just rushed away from there. A lot of politics is there. So there is no main kind of a lead news which can be reported today on that front. Of course, Gujarat, we have already given you the news. The good news, the sweet news. And my favorite part, business and finance. So what's happening on the business and finance front? US stocks, because when we do this news, basically we do the news when the US markets open. So US stocks mostly move lower amid the focus on the debt ceiling bill, and there is not a lot of clarity yet which has to go, so they're kind of going a little cautious. The European stocks tumbled on Wednesday. When we report, European markets have closed, and so they tumbled on Wednesday as the concerns about economic slowdown following disappointing data out of China and the prospects of further interest rate hikes in the Federal Reserves. And the leading central banks rendered the mood which is bearish. So this is a kind of a commentary which is coming from the European stock market. Asian stocks also plummeted on Wednesday. Mainly their concern was obviously the Chinese manufacturing data. And China's Shanghai Composite Index dropped almost 0.61%. You may call it 1%. And Indian indices, Sensex and Nifty, they also almost trailed the global cues. They dipped following the global cues, and Sensex almost cracked by 350 points and Nifty cracked by almost 100 points. That's the news for the day. Stay tuned. Do keep on logging to our website datelinegujaratnews.com. Keep on reading our newsletter, keep on clicking the news. Do read, and of course other bulleted points in form of news wires. You can just cruise through them, you can just browse that and slide that, scroll that, and understand what is happening in the world, what is happening in India, what is happening in Gujarat, what is happening in the world business activities, what are taking place, and what is happening in the areas of Indian markets also. So have a great day, have a good day. Thank you for watching me, and good night.